what's up? It's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel, and I am here with my least favorite, most disappointing books of 2022. Now, these were not DNFs. I don't even count those towards my reads. These are books that I did finish. These were ones that I initially was pretty excited for, and they just fell really flat. So here are my disappointments. So the first disappointing read for me was The Silent Waters by Brittany Cherry. I had read the first book in this companion novel series in the fall of 2021, and I really enjoyed it. I skipped book 2 because the ratings were lower, and these series don't really tie together, so it doesn't matter. And so I went to the third book because the setup, everything was like perfect. You have two people that have basically been in love with each other since they were little kids, and one afternoon, our heroine, she sees a man murdering a woman, and it basically gives her so much PTSD that she becomes a selective mute for the rest of her life. And so this book is a lot of conflicts because ever since that night or day where she became a mute, she doesn't leave her house. She withdrew from school. Her stepmother's really mean to her and kind of treats her like a special ed person. And my gripes with this book was there were a lot of huge time jumps. I think that our heroine, I think a lot of her problems could have been solved pretty early on. I just feel like it was dragged out. I just didn't vibe with it. I think I initially rated it a 3, and this was back in January, and if I were to reread it, it would probably be a 2. But yeah, it just was not it for me. The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I read this in March, and you know, I'm wondering if I need to go back and reread this because it might have just been the timing. Because when I did read this, I was on a very huge fantasy kick, and I had kind of put a pause on it to go back to a contemporary romance, but I just didn't vibe with this book at all. I would say the best way to describe it is I feel like Rowan, our hero, he was just all over the place. I feel like Lauren Asher started writing this book, walked away from it for a long time, forgot details of his attitude and his personality, and then just started it again. I don't know. He just gave me a lot of whiplash. He was just all over the place. He was a dick when he didn't need to be. There is a scene in here towards the end, the hospital. I'm not going to spoil it, but if that would have happened to me, I would have never gone back to a man. This was just a disappointment. I am going to read the next one, Terms and Conditions, because I have heard that it is really good. It is Marriage of Convenience, which I love. But yeah, this one just did not do it for me. Rootbound by Tara DeWitt. This was recommended for me by a friend on my Bookstagram because it kind of fits that whole mountain man-esque trope that I really, really like. This does take place in Montana. I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember enough that I was bored out of my ever-loving mind, and I skimmed a lot towards the end because I just wanted it to end. But our heroine, she moves to the ranch that she was initially raised on, but her father decided to get like a new family or something, so her mother moved her and her sister away, and she didn't see her father again for a long time. So she ends up coming back to this ranch, and she falls for the ranch hand or something like that. It had a lot of like promise, but my gripes were there were too many damn side characters. I couldn't keep track of anything, and I didn't care about the side characters. I'm sorry. I don't care about all of your extended family members and what they're cooking for breakfast and all of that. I just don't care. So we're going to move on from this. Then we have A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. I was just as upset that I didn't like this as my friends were because one of my book besties, this was one of her absolute favorite books of the year. I was really excited to read it. And I don't see the hype. I really, really don't, because everybody, you know, they push this book as you have a high school romance. They are at a private school. They are rich. He's like the bad boy. She's the virgin. But I don't know. I just didn't really feel anything bad boy-esque about him. Like, I just didn't. I feel like there really wasn't a whole lot of conflicts to this book because I feel like it was set up because you have your virgin heroine, and she was such a virgin that she had a promise ring that her father gave to her, and it was a huge deal to her father that she stay pure and all that. And so there was a tiny bit of conflict with her parents when they find out she's dating somebody, but it wasn't the big conflict that I thought was gonna. It was so brushed over. And yeah, like I liked the first half, and the second half it just got more and more boring the more I turned the page. Now this next one, I am going to go back later this year in 2023 and try to reread it because I think this was one of those instances where right book, wrong time, if you know what I mean. So it is Gothicana, and this is a dark academia book. It is a favorite by so many people, and I love the setup and everything. I was bored while I was reading it, and I don't know why. And I don't know if it was because it was like kind of towards the beginning of the summer and I was reading outside, and my mind was just on like, I need to finish this so I can start my summer TBR. So I do want to go back and try this, but another thing that I had a hard time with was the writing style. This was the first book I had read by this author, and it's written in third person, and some of it was a little confusing to understand. But like I said, I was literally laying on our couch thingy outside with the buyer at 2 o'clock in the morning, half asleep, trying to finish this thing on my Kindle. So I am going to go back, but for 2022, it was just a disappointment for me. This next one is another one that really surprised me. I thought I was going to love it. Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling. This is the second book in the Fallen Men series. And I actually really enjoyed the first book, which is totally flipped opinions of other people. A lot of people hate the first book, and the second is like their favorite of the entire series. And I don't know what it was. I just didn't like the second. It was another case where I got to the halfway mark and I was bored. And this was over the summer, and I read so many books over the summer, and I read a lot at the same time. And I do remember this one took me, I binged the first half really quickly, and then the second half took me a few weeks because I just wanted to be done. And it really upset me because I was so excited for it, but I didn't like it. I am going to keep going on in the series because I did really like the first one, and I do like the idea of the third one, with it being the daughter of the motorcycle club gang and a cop. But yeah, the second one just did not do it for me. Another one that I was pretty upset I didn't like, and honestly, out of all of them, I think this is the one that I was the most upset that I didn't like, and that is the DoOver by T.L. Swan. Now, if you have followed my channel since I started it at the beginning of 2022, I love the Miles High series. I read them back in February, and then the fourth and final book came out in August. I got an advance copy, and I was so excited. And this book just, no, it fell flat. I feel like it would have been better if it was not a Miles High book, because, okay, so the Miles High books, part of why I love them so much is they are office business romances, okay? You have the 4 Miles brothers. They are all richer than God, you know. Fourth one, Christopher Miles. He's the man-holiest out of all of his brothers, and so he wants to prove them wrong, that he is not just a spoiled rich boy that wants to get laid all the time. So he ends up taking a year off and backpacking across Europe. And I thought the setup was really fun. Like, this could be great, but they stayed in the same place the entire time. I didn't like the heroine. I thought she was such a pushover, which is a disappointment because the first 3 books in the Mile High, those were some pretty feisty ladies that fought back, and when they didn't want what they didn't want, they put their foot down. And this one, all I remember about her was that she came from a cow farm. So like I said, it had promise, like, oh, we're gonna backpack across Europe, but they stayed in one place. A lot of the jokes were just crude. It was immature. Like I said, the only times this felt like a Miles High book was the times where his brothers were in a scene talking to him. Other than that, I felt like this was a totally different book series. It was disappointing because I loved the first 3 books. I absolutely loved them, and this just made me sad. The Summer of Broken Rules. This was another one I was excited for my summer TBR. I loved the idea, the setup of going to a small kind of coastal town, playing a game of assassin with your family for the week, and falling in love, right? And I think I would have liked this better if it was marketed as a fiction and not a romance, because to me, the romance fell flat. I think that the characters had way better chemistry as friends, and I was way more interested in the assassin game than I was about their relationship. And so I honestly, if this was marketed as a fiction, I would have had a good time because I liked the side characters, the family was fun, and the game of assassin was fun. And other than that, the romance, it just was not it for me. And lastly, we have Fake Empire. I read this at the beginning of December. I was really excited for it because everybody said it was like Miles High meets Connor and Rose from the Addicted series, and it was a marriage of convenience, and I just was so excited, but I was bored. And I don't know if that's because I was coming off of November, which was such an amazing reading month for me. Every book just was a banger, and then December hit, and I don't know. I was bored. And I think that's the theme here with these disappointing books, is that I was bored. Okay, well, thank you for sticking with me while I rambled on about the most disappointing books that I read in 2022. I hope 2023 is better. Like I said, 1 or 2 of these I am going to go back and try again, see if my opinions change. But other than that, I just was bored. And that was the theme here. So I will see you guys next time, probably with my favorite series of 2022. Until then, bye!